Hi friends, இந்த வீடியோவில் ugtrb யூனிட் 9 literary criticism and theoriesல third topic orientation of critical theories இதோட MCQs ஃபுல்லாக பார்த்துடலாம். இதில் mimetic theory, pragmatic theory, Sidney, Dryden, Dr. Johnson, Coleridge, Arnold, T.S. Eliot இது எல்லாத்தோட MCQஸும் நம்ம டீட்டெயிலாக பார்க்கலாம். இது உங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப யூஸ்ஃபுல்லாக இருக்கும் எக்ஸாமுக்கு. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் mimetic theory இதோட MCQs பார்த்தலாம். First, what is the concept of theory in literary criticism? Literary theory is a description of underlying principles, one might say the tools by which we attempt to understand literature. Second question, what are the four theories of literary criticism? Mimetic theories, pragmatic theories, expressive theories, objective theories. Third question, mimetic theories emphasize dash representations of the world. Fourth question, who is the father of mimetic theory? René Girard. Fifth question, literary theory is the dash theory that guide those that criticize people's works. Sixth question, what is Aristotle's mimetic theory? The poet does not imitate reality but brings reality into existence through mimesis. Seventh question, what is Plato's theory of mimetic? Mimesis is the appearance of external image of things. Eighth question, what is mimetic theory of origin of drama? Mimesis refers to an imitation of nature or practice in writing of showing through direct representation instead of telling. Ninth question, mimesis criticism, a method of interpreting text in relation to their literary or cultural models. 10th question, the word mimetic comes from dash. Greek word mimesis, the act of imitation. 11th question, the mimetic theory of literary criticism places dash primary importance on how well a literary work imitates life. 12th question, mimetic theory emphasizes dash how literature's capacity for healing relates to the literary work's conveyance of universal truth. 13th question, what are the main components of mimetic theory? Mimetic desire, the scapegoating mechanism, revelation. 14th question, mimetic desire operates as a dash subconscious imitation of another's desire. 15th question, what are the advantages of mimetic theory? It offers a way to construe human cognition and communication more broadly than in a perspective focusing on language. Next, pragmatic theories. First, who is father of pragmatism? Charles Sanders Peirce, American scientist, logician, mathematician and philosopher. Second question, pragmatic theory concerned with dash relationship between text and audience. Third, pragmatic theory emphasizes dash how the reader responds to the literary work's capacity for healing. Fourth question, one example of pragmatic theory is John Dewey's focus on action in education. Fifth question, the pragmatist believed in the dash progress of human knowledge and those ideas or tools whose validity and significance are established as people adapt and text them in physical and social setting. Third, Sidney. First question, Sir Philip Sidney dash an eminent Elizabethan poet, courtier and literary critic, holds a distinctive position in The history of English literary criticism. Second question. Das is widely acknowledged as one of the first significant piece of literary criticism in English language. The defense of poetry. Third question. What is the name of the work of criticism written by Sidney? An apology for poetry or the defense of poetry. It was written in approximately 1580 and first published in 1595 after his death. Fourth question. Sidney's important works. Astrophel and Stella, The Defense of Poesy, The Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia. Fifth question. What are the four charges against poetry by Stephen Gosson? The four charges against poetry. It is waste of time to study poetry. Poetry is mother of lies. Poetry is the nurse of abuse. Plato had banished poets from his ideal republic. Sixth question. In 1579 appeared a treatise entitled The School of Abuse, written by Das. Stephen Gosson. Seventh question. The School of Abuse was dedicated to Das. Sir Philip Sidney. Eighth question. Who provoked Sidney to write an apology for poetry? Gosson's dedication. Sidney gives a reply to all these charges against poetry and also writes exhaustively on the nature and functions of poetry. Ninth question. Why does Sidney condemn tragic comedy in An Apology for Poetry? It expresses outright the sort of distaste this yoking together of opposite could provoke. 10th question. Sidney asserts that poetry is das monarch of the arts because of its ability to unite the best part of philosophy and history in vivid, pleasing, and memorable examples. 11th question. Sir Philip Sidney says poetry is an art of imitation. He gets this idea from Das. Aristotle. 12th question. Sidney in his work An Apology for Poetry uses the Greek term misomosoi to mean Das, poet haters. 13th question. Sidney in his work An Apology for Poetry says that we should dash to crown poets. Plant more laurels. 14th question. Sidney's The England's first critical text during Renaissance, An Apology for Poetry is also called Das, The Defense of Poetry. 15th question. A Defense of Poetry, an essay that acknowledged the poet of the world, was written by Das. P.B. Shelley. 16th question. In the beginning of the essay, Sidney brings an anecdote with an exordium. What is exordium? Introduction. 17th question. Which work of Sidney Shakespeare borrowed and produced Gloucester as the subplot of King Lear? Arcadia. 18th question. What is the value of Sidney's criticism? To Sidney, it is an art of imitation for a specific purpose. It imitated to teach and delight. 19th question. What are the type of poetry according to Sidney? Religious poetry, philosophical poetry. 20th question. An Apology for Poetry showcases Sir Philip Sidney's Das deep understanding of classical and humanist traditions while advocating for enduring importance of poetry as a form of expression, communication and moral instructions. Dryden. First question. Samuel Johnson called him Dryden Das, the father of English criticism. Second question. Who called Dryden the father of English criticism? Samuel Johnson. Third question. The essay of dramatic poesy is a dialogue between Das friends. Four friends. Fourth question. Critics from Dr. Johnson to David Deutsch admitted his contribution to English criticism has been considerable and lasting. Fifth, Dryden is the first in English literature to use the term criticism. Sixth, John Dryden, born 19th August 1631, died 12 May 1700. Seventh question. Who was John Dryden? English poet, literary critic, translator and playwright who appointed England's first poet laureate in 1668. Eighth question. Sir Walter Scott called him thus Glorious John. Ninth question. England's first poet laureate that's John Dryden, who wrote an essay of dramatic poesy. 1668. John Dryden. 11th. John Dryden occupies a seminal place in Dash, English critical history. 12th question. Dryden's essay of dramatic poesy is written as a Dash, debate on drama conducted by four speakers: Eugenius, Critias, Lycidius, Neander. 13th question. What was John Dryden's writing style? Heroic stanzas. His heroic stanzas were mature, considered, sonorous and sprinkled with those classical and scientific allusions that characterized his later verse. 14th question. Why is Dryden called the father of criticism? Claiming Dryden as first English critic to make use of historical criticism. 15th question. Is Dryden's essay of dramatic poesy a work of legislative criticism? 16th question. In an essay of dramatic poesy, Dryden's voice speaks through the character of Das, Neander, whose name means new man in Greek. 17th question. What are the main issues discussed in Dryden's essay of dramatic poesy? The classical model of units of time, place and action. The classical distinction of genre such as tragedy and comedy. 18th question. What is the unity of action in Dryden? A tragedy should have one principal action. 19th question. What is unity of time in Dryden? The action in a tragedy should occur over a period of no more than 24 hours. 20th question. What is unity of place in Dryden? A tragedy should exist in a single physical location. Dr. Johnson. First question. Who was Samuel Johnson? Born 18th September 1709, died 13th December 1784, often called Dr. Johnson. Second, Dr. Johnson was an English writer who made lasting contribution as Das, a poet, playwright, essayist, moralist, literary critic, sermonist, biographer, editor and lexicographer. Third question. The Oxford Dictionary of National Biography calls him Das, arguably the most distinguished man of letters in English history. 14th question. Dr. Johnson's notable works. A Dictionary of the English Language 1755. A Journey to Western Isles of Scotland 1775. Fifth question. How does Dr. Johnson critically evaluate Shakespeare as an artist? Johnson's preface to Shakespeare is an everlasting contribution to English literary criticism. Sixth question. How does Johnson prize Shakespeare's art of characterization? Johnson praises Shakespeare's art of characterization, highlighting their variety, depth, credibility, and the power of delighting his audience. Seventh question. What are the views of Johnson on poetry? In his Life of Milton, Johnson writes about poetry. He says that poetry is art of uniting pleasure with the truth by calling imagination to the help of reason. Eighth question. What did Johnson criticize about Shakespeare's play? Johnson does not take a favorable view of Shakespeare's tragic plays, inappropriate use of idle conceit and his over fondness for foibles, imagination, but his moral concern are principally important. Ninth question. What kind of critic was Samuel Johnson? Literary critic. 10th question. What are the faults of Shakespeare in Johnson's preface to Shakespeare? Shakespeare writes without moral purpose and is more careful to please than to instruct. 11th question. Johnson passes the judgment that Shakespeare is a dash, poet of nature, meaning that through his work he reflects life, the real life and manners. 12th question. Dr. Johnson's prose style is highly dash, Latinized. 13th question. Johnson's Rambler is still relevant because the papers published in it contains Johnson's principle of criticism. 14th question. Who is the writer of Johnson's famous biography? Boswell. 15th question. Dr. Johnson's The Vanity of Human Wishes was written in dash, closed heroic couplets. 16th question. In his views on the death of Cordelia in King Lear, which is ground not specifically cited by Samuel Johnson, it is contrary to Neoplatonic idea of decorum. 17th question. The object of all criticism, according to Johnson, is to make the obscure and the confused a clear and understood. 18th question. Samuel Johnson defended Shakespeare's use of the dash, tragic comedy. 19th question. The defect or fault in Shakespeare according to Johnson is that dash, he sacrificed virtue to convenience. 20th question. Johnson said that Shakespeare often surpassed expectation or desire when he wrote dash, comedy. S.T. Coleridge. First, S.T. Coleridge, full name Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Second question. Samuel Taylor Coleridge was an dash, English poet, literary critic, philosopher and theologian. Third question. S.T. Coleridge, born 21 October 1772, died 25 July 1834. Fourth question. Who was founder of Romantic movement in England and member of Lake Poets? S.T. Coleridge with his friend William Wordsworth. Fifth question. S.T. Coleridge literary movement dash Romanticism. Seventh question. S.T. Coleridge notable works: The Rime of Ancient Mariner, Kubla Khan, Christabel, Conversation Poems, Biographia Literaria. Eighth question. His critical work, especially on dash, was high influential. William Shakespeare. Ninth question. Coleridge helped introduce dash to English speaking cultures. German idealist philosophy. 10th question. Coleridge coined many familiar words and phrases, including suspension of disbelief. 11th question. Who wrote Biographia Literaria? Samuel Taylor Coleridge. 12th question. Coleridge wrote influential piece of literary criticism, Biographia Literaria. 13th question. Biographia Literaria, critical autobiography. Its working title was Autobiographia Literaria. 14th question. When was Biographia Literaria published? 1817 in 2 volumes. 15th question. What is the literary theory of S.T. Coleridge? Coleridge established the conception of organic theory of literature. 16th question. The modern criticism of English literature was originated by dash S.T. Coleridge. 17th question. Who introduced philosophy and psychology into literary criticism? S.T. Coleridge. 18th question. Dash is the first English critic to base his literary criticism on philosophical principles. Coleridge. 19th question. Coleridge argues that everyone's language varies according to dash extent of his knowledge. 20th question. What is the difference between fancy and imagination in Biographia Literaria? Fancy and imagination is same as the difference between mechanical mixture and chemical mixture. 21. What are the two types of imagination according to Coleridge? Primary and secondary imagination. Matthew Arnold. First question. Who was Matthew Arnold? English poet and cultural critic during Victorian era. Second question. Matthew Arnold born and died. Born 24th December 1822. Died 15th April 1888. Third question. Arnold worked as an dash inspector of schools for 25 years. Fourth question. Who was the father of Matthew Arnold? Thomas Arnold, the celebrated headmaster of Rugby School. Fifth question. Matthew Arnold has been characterized as a sage writer. Sixth question. What is Arnold period and genre? Victorian period. Genre: the poetry, literary, social and religious criticism. Seventh question. What are the notable works? Dover Beach, The Scholar Gypsy, Thyrsis, Culture and Anarchy, Literature and Dogma, The Study of Poetry. Eighth question. Who is known as critic's critic? Matthew Arnold. Ninth question. What is the critical summary of Arnold, The Study of Poetry? Arnold terms poetry as criticism of life, thereby refuting the accusation of Plato, and says that as time goes on, man will continue to find comfort and solace in poetry. 10th question. What is Arnold Touchstone method of criticism? Comparative method of criticism. 11th question. What was Arnold's criticism of Wordsworth? Wordsworth could never be a truly great and permanent poet of the stature that Coleridge had suggested there might be. 12th question. What is Matthew Arnold's theory of poetry? Arnold defines poetry as a criticism of life under condition fixed for such a criticism by the law of poetic truth and poetic beauty. 13th question. Who introduced the touchstone method in criticism? Matthew Arnold. His touchstone method, published in The Study of Poetry, 1880. 14th question. Arnold introduced dash scientific objective to critical evaluation. 15th question. T.S. Eliot praised Arnold's objective approach to critical evaluation. 16th question. Matthew Arnold, the most influential of the Victorian critic, has been characterized by dash David Deutsch as the great modern critic. 17th question. Matthew Arnold has often called dash the forgotten Victorian. 18th question. According to Arnold, criticism did not come from branch of philosophy. It was not even a craft, it was form of art, the art of judgment. 19th question. According to Arnold, poetry interrupts life in two ways. Poetry is interpretive by having natural magic in it and moral profundity. 20th question. Arnold puts Wordsworth in the front rank not for his poetry but for his dash criticism of life. 21. Arnold says that Pope and Dryden are not poet classic but prose classics of 18th century. 22. Arnold about Robert Burns. Like Chaucer, Burns lacks high poetic seriousness, though his poems have poetic truth in diction and movement. 23. What is the role of critic according to Arnold? To create a favorable atmosphere for the creative genius of future. 24. What are the qualifications of a critic according to Arnold? Every critic should try and possess one great literature, at least besides his own, and more unlike his own the better. 25th question. Who is the first great English critic poet? Matthew Arnold. T.S. Eliot. First question. T.S. Eliot's full name. Thomas Stearns Eliot's home. Second. Who was T.S. Eliot? Born 26 September 1888. Died 4th January 1965. American English poet, playwright, literary critic, publisher and editor. Third question. What is T.S. Eliot best known for? A leader of modernist movement in poetry. Fourth question. Who is father of modern poetry? T.S. Eliot. Fifth question. What are the features of Eliot's poetry? Eliot's style is lengthy and laden with literary device of one sort or another. Eliot also made significant contribution to the field of dash literary criticism and strongly influenced the school of new criticism. 7th question. What is T.H. Eliot's style of writing? High modernism. 8th question. What according to Eliot are the tool of a critic? Comparison and analysis. 9th question. What is critical theory of T.S. Eliot? Dissociation of sensibility. 10th question. Eliot's most notable works include dash The Wasteland 1922, Four Quatrains 1943, the play Murder in the Cathedral 1935. 11th question. What is the critical work of T.S. Eliot? Poetry and Drama, Hamlet and His Problems, The Possibility of Poetic Drama. 12th question. What are the two seminal critical concepts formulated by Eliot? The dissociation of sensibility and the objective correlative. 13th question. In which year was T.S. Eliot awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature? 1948. 14th question. Which literary movement was T.S. Eliot associated with? Modernism. 15th question. In which year was T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland first published? 1922. 16th question. What was the name of literary journal founded by T.S. Eliot in 1922? The Criterion. 17th question. What was the title of T.S. Eliot last completed work published posthumously in 1965? The Elder Statesman. 18th question. Which of the following was a major influence on T.S. Eliot's writing? Classicism. 19th question. What was T.S. Eliot's first? Murder in the Cathedral. 20th question. What was the title of Eliot's last major work published in 1948? Four Quatrains. 21. Eliot says inner voice is dash Vigary. 22. Middleton Murry has criticized the critical work of Eliot. 23. Eliot's essay The Function of Criticism has dash 4 parts. 24. The lemon squeezer critique is opposed by T.S. Eliot. 25. Eliot said that Arnold overlooks the importance of criticism in creation. 26. The function of criticism is T.S. Eliot's reply to Middleton Murry. 27. The commentation and exposition of works of art according to Eliot is criticism. 28. Eliot believes that artists unite consciously or unconsciously under a common inheritance and cause. 29. Who according to Eliot are the real corruptors of taste? Those that supply opinion or fancy. 30. Eliot says that function of a critic is to dash a work of art. Elucidate. Thank you for watching friends. இந்த வீடியோ உங்களுக்கு யூஸ்ஃபுல்லாக இருந்துச்சுன்னா ப்ளீஸ் சப்போர்ட் பண்ணுங்கள், லைக் பண்ணுங்கள், ஷேர் பண்ணுங்கள், சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்கள். பை.